Dalangin para sa mga kababayan natin sa Bicol at sa iba pang bahagi ng Pilipinas. Nung nagsimula kami sa aming hearing sa mga kaso ng human trafficking ni Apollo C. QUIBOLOY, tandang-tanda ko, ang sabi sa amin, Risa is biting off more than she can chew. It was unthinkable after all to go after a pastor who was believed to be able to command hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of voters. A pastor who was associated with a former president and an entire vote-rich province. A pastor na may sariling media outfit, may madaming mga kumpanya, at may sariling simbahan. Huwag mong banggain yan, sabi ng ilang mga well-meaning na kaibigan. Hindi mo kakayanin. Why did we push? We pushed because of the stories of young girls that we heard were being groomed into what he called pastorals and forced to provide sexual services to this so-called Son of God. Ang pakikipagtalik daw kay Apollo QUIBOLOY ay paraan ng pagsasamba sa Ama at pagsasakripisyo ng sarili para sa dakilang manlilikha. Tinulak namin ang pagdinig na ito dahil sa kwento ng mga batang puslit na sapilitang pinapalimos sa kalsada at hindi pinapag-aral para makabili ng helicopter, mamahaling sasakyan, malalaking bahay sa iba't ibang bansa, ang self-proclaimed Son of God. Hindi po ito katanggap-tanggap sa amin. Coming on the heels of the Senyor Aguila investigation, mahalaga din sa amin na siyasatin. May pagkukulang ba ang ating batas at tila hindi napaparusahan ang mga leader ng mga religious organizations na nagtatago sa balot ng religious freedom para pagtakba ng tahindik-hindik na mga kasamaan? Are our rape laws sufficient to navigate the gray area of consent, sexual agency, and religious freedom? Are our labor laws sufficient to address the situation of religious volunteers na sapilitang pinagtatrabaho at pinagkakaita ng mga benepisyo gaya ng SSS, PhilHealth at Pag-ibig? Ngayon po, nandito na sa harap natin si Apollo QUIBOLOY. Pilit na iniwasan ang Senado kung ano-anong kondisyones ang ginawa para hindi harapin ang ating pagdinig, 50 security personnel, private jet, 5-star hotel at iba pa. Pinarali pa ang mga tagasunod at binuli ang mga witnesses namin sa social media. Ngayon po, nandito na po kayo. Bumabagyo man, ay magkaharap na po tayong lahat. Today, Mr. QUIBOLOY, your victims will confront whom they believe to be their abuser. Huwag po kayong mag-alala. You will also be given an opportunity to reply. Today, mga kasama, dear colleagues, sama-sama tayong matututo, maglalagom, magwawasto, at pinakamahalaga, maghihilom. We will all heal. At this point, pagdating po ni Majority Leader, mag-opening statement din sila. At sa ngayon, may I request our Committee Secretary to recognize the resource persons and administer the oath to those who are here for the first time. At ganito po ang ating daloy, ladies and gentlemen. Today is about the victim survivors. Matagal nang pinatahimik, matagal na tinakot. Ngayon po ay bibigyan natin sila ng puwang magsalita. Mayroon din po tayo mga witnesses dito na minsan nang nagpakita sa ating hearing. Para sa kanilang kaligtasan ay gumamit po sila ng ibang pangalan. Kung ano-ano ang nadinig galing sa mga taga-KOJC, kesyo daw, duwag, ayaw magpakita ng mukha. Ngayon po, magpapakita na ng mukha at buong pagkakilanlan sina Yulia Tartova, nakilalang Elias Sofia, Edward Ablaza Masayon, nakilalang Elias Jackson, at Joar Martinet Olimba, nakilalang Elias Jerome. So, Comsec, pakikilalanin muna yung ating resource persons at panumpain yung hindi pa nakapag-sumpa.
Good morning po, Senator Ontiveros. For today's inquiry, the Department of Justice, which is supposed to be represented by Secretary Jesus Remulla, is represented by Senior State Counsel Mary Grace Quintana. We also have the Director for the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, CIDG, PB General Nicolas Torre III, and Police Lieutenant Colonel Jean Likud, Police Colonel Hansen Marantan. Okay. For the National Bureau of Investigation, we have Investigator Victoria B. Canyo Jr., Victoria, and SI Geraldo P. De Luna. From the Department of Social Welfare and Development, we have Social Welfare Officer 5, Ms. Charito Esteban, and Attorney for Edgar Alian Pamis. From the Department of Interior and Local Government, we have ASEC Romeo P. Benitez. From the Department of Foreign Affairs, we have Undersecretary Jesus Gary Domingo. We have Secretary Enrique Manalo. Sorry po. And Attorney Zeph Goson. From the Bureau of Immigration, we have Attorney Vicente Uncad and Attorney Jose Calito Zailicas. From the Council for the Welfare of Children, we have Undersecretary Angelo M. Tapales. From the Commission on Human Rights, we have Chairperson Richard Palpalatok. From the Securities and Exchange Commission, we have Attorney Jonathan Pancrasius Pagirigan. We have Chief Counsel Attorney Hale Oliver Labayo and Attorney Pamela Lorraine S. Ramos. From the Social Security System, they are represented by Ms. Marie Elaine Estoque, their Vice President for Mindanao South 1 Luzon Division. And Ms. Irene Laksamana, as well as Ms. Alnora Presbitero, Ms. Elaine Perucho, Attorney Joseph Desunya. From the Center for Migrant Advocacy, they are represented by the Executive Director Ellen Sana. From the Now Independent Press Council, they are represented by the President Edita Caduaya. And the founding leader and executive pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, Pastor Apollo Quiboloy, together with Miss Jacqueline Roy, Resente Canada, Pauline Canada, Ingrid Canada, Sylvia Semañez. Online is Miss Arlene Canuda Stone, Mr. Edward Ablasa Masayon, Mr. Joar Martinet Olimba, Mr. Resita Tinanhan Valdehuesa, Miss Jocelyn Mondejar, and online also is Miss Yulia Veronin, and online also is Mr. Dindo Garcia Makiling. We will be joined later by alias Marie, Senator. That's all. May I request all of those who have not yet taken their oaths, resource persons and witnesses as well, to stand up. And please raise your right hand. Resource persons and witnesses, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this Senate inquiry proceedings?
Yes.
Senator, they have all answered in the affirmative. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Comsec, at maraming salamat sa lahat ng resource persons. At this point, bago natin unang binigin yung ating mga victim survivors, first I would like to call on the Majority Leader, Senator Francis Tolentino, para sa kanilang opening statement. You have the floor, Major.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga sa ating mga resource persons. Magandang umaga kay Pastor Apollo Quiboloy at sa lahat ng mga naririto. At sa mga kapwa kong mambabatas, kahit po yung nandoon sa online at sa ating mga panauhin, tayo po ay naririto sa harap ng committee ito sa isang maulang araw. At nais ko lang linawin po ang layunin para sa aking perspective as an officer of the court, as a lawyer, kung ano po ang layunin at kahalagahan ng pagdinig na ito. Ang Senado ay, unang-una, ang Senado ay hindi isang hukuman. At hindi po tayo naririto upang magpasya kung ang isang tao ay nagkasala o walang sala. Sa ilalim ng saligang batas ng Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na sa Article 6, Section 21, binigyan tayo ng kapangyarihan. Tinutukoy ko po ang mga mambabatas na magsagawa ng mga investigasyon in aid of legislation o bilang tulong sa paggawa ng mga batas. Sa hukuman, ang pangunahing layunin ay ang paglutas ng mga kaso at pag-alam kung may pananagutan o wala ang mga akusado. Batay sa ebidensyang ipinapakita sa Senado, ang ating layunin ay iba. Ito ay upang mag-imbestiga at mangalap ng mga impormasyon at dokumento para sa isang makatarungan at makabuluhang pagbalangkas ng mga batas. Sa isang husgado, meron pong tinatawag na right cross-examine witnesses. Maliwanag po sa Rules of Court, ang Bill of Rights, at iba pa. Ngunit nais ko pong ipabatid na ang karapatang mag-cross-examine ng mga testigo, isang mahalagang bahagi ng mga pagdinig ng korte, ay hindi saklaw ng investigasyong ito. Ang proseso ng cross-examination at iba pang pamamaraan na ginagamit ng korte ay eksklusibo sa judikatura. But we recognize, this committee, again, as an officer of the court, recognizes the primacy of the judiciary insofar as this issue is concerned. One, because the committee requested the Regional Trial Court of Pasig to allow the detainees to attend today's hearing. It is an acknowledgement of the court's jurisdiction over the accused. Number two, the committee, before it moved and conducted a hearing today, showed respect to the court by acknowledging the court's jurisdiction and not conducting a hearing without the prior court approval. And number two, and I would want to make a motion here before I continue my opening statement, Madam Chair, this committee should likewise be furnished a copy of any opposition filed to form part of the records of these proceedings of the counsel of those accused present here. I request, Madam Chair, that we be provided copies of any opposition filed by the group of Pastor QUIBOLOY and all other accused in the Pasig case, if that would merit the consideration of this committee, Madam Chair.
So ruled, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam
Also,
Chair. That
please.
would form part of the records of this case, Madam Chair. And again, I reiterate what I've been saying here. Ang atin pong ginagawa ay hindi po para maghusga ng innocence or guilt ng mga akusado sa isang kaso. Subalit, nais po rin nating bigyan diin na napakaraming desisyon ng Korte Suprema, simula pa lang nung Arnold versus Nazareno, 1950, na binigyan diin ng Korte Suprema ang kapangyarihan ng Senado na mag-imbita at magpatawag ng mga saksi, resource persons, para linawin ang paggawa ng batas. At kaya po tayo merong pagdinig ngayon. Subalit, nais ko pong hilingin sa lahat na during these proceedings, we show utmost respect and consideration to all persons here present, whether accuser or accused. Ang Senado po should remain as a bastion of dignity. Hindi po tayo narito para magtapon ng kung ano-anong dumi sa bawat isa, kung hindi para ipakita na ang paggawa ng batas ay ating pinapahalagahan at pinapahalagahan din natin ang karapatan ng mga naririto. Sa hukuman, meron silang, ulitin ko, meron silang karapatan na magsalita ang abogado. Dito po ay hindi. Let me ask the committee and all my colleagues here, whether present physically or virtually, to assure all of those listening that under our rules, all resource persons will be treated with respect and afforded fair treatment. Then that this institution, as I've said, will always pride itself in upholding the principles of fairness and transparency. However, if there are legal matters against you, it must be addressed in the proper judicial forum, not here. In summary, while we have the authority to compel testimony in aid of legislation, any allegations or charges will have to be resolved in the court of law. And I'm now referring to the Regional Trial Court of Pasig. Madam Chair, let us always be reminded that we have a constitution. We have a living constitution, and that the constitution should stand as our unwavering shield, protecting the rights of all, whether accused or accuser, in ensuring that justice is served without discrimination and with fairness and equality. Sana po sa pagdinig na ito, makagawa tayo ng nararapat na pagbabago sa batas, and I'm referring to the Human Trafficking Act, the elements of which we cannot change because we're bound, Secretary Manalo is here, by the Palermo Convention. Perhaps the penalties could be increased, but just the same, this hearing is required of us as part of the complexities of governance that would require us to listen to various voices, even those embroiled in legal challenges and scrutiny. Again, Madam Chair, it is crucial that we uphold the integrity of our legislative process by respecting all resource persons present and upholding due process and fairness. Our commitment must be to engage in a meaningful dialogue while adhering to the principles of justice and respect for individual rights. Our role is to seek the truth. To seek the truth. Mapagandahan ho natin yung batas, marami nakikinig ngayon, and not to pass judgment. Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the privilege to have an opening statement, and again, let that serve as a continuing manifestation as to the role of this committee in the coming minutes and in the coming hours as we proceed. I now yield the floor. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga sa inyo lahat.
Maraming salamat din po, Majority Leader. At dagdag dun sa areas of legislation na tinukoy ng Majority Leader, inuulit ko lang yung bahagi ng opening statement ko rin kanina tungkol sa ating mga batas kaugnay ng pag-misuse ng usapin ng religious freedom, yung mga rape laws natin, kung nasasaklaw na nito yung mga usapin ng consent, sexual agency at religious freedom, at yung mga labor laws din natin, kung saklaw yung mga karapatan at kagalingan ng mga tinatawag na religious volunteers. So muli, salamat po sa Majority Leader. And at this point, lastly, bago natin pakinggan yung ating mga victim survivors, may request po sa ating good Foreign Affairs Secretary Manalo dahil kinakailangan nilang umalis ng mas maaga na makapagbigay ng ilang mga salita sa atin. Secretary Manalo, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Maraming salamat, Honorable Chairperson, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Honorable Senator Francis Tolentino, my colleagues in government, good morning. I just want to thank Senator Ontiveros and this committee for giving the Department of Foreign Affairs the opportunity to contribute to our meeting today in aid of legislation. Nais ko lang briefing lang on 2 points, with your permission. The first point is on the possible extradition issue. And as you know, the Philippines has an extradition treaty with the United States of America. I wish to report that as of this date, the Department of Foreign Affairs has not received a formal extradition request from the United States. Doon po sa isang issue din, I want to focus on the request for assistance by any Filipino nationals in the United States who may have been victims of human trafficking in relation to this case. As of this date, none of our Foreign Service posts in the United States have reported receiving any request for assistance. Madam Chair, the DFA is ready to assist in providing any information that we may receive from this date relevant to to today's legislative inquiry. And I'm also being joined today by Undersecretary Jose Domingo, who can add any input if needed for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Manalo. Yes, would you, Sec Domingo, like to briefly add anything to these 2 updates on the formal request for extradition and the request for assistance?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Tolentino. Yes, as Secretary Manalo has mentioned, that we have not yet received a formal request, but we are standing by. We have also not received any request with regard to trafficking, with assistance with respect to the human trafficking. But all our Foreign Service posts and all our offices in the Department of Foreign Affairs stand ready, and we have been in informal consultation and communications with our sister agencies in government. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you also, Yusek Domingo. The Majority Leader would like
Just
to
one
interject.
quick follow-up question, address either the Secretary Manalo or Yusek Domingo. I have here in my possession in front of me our extradition treaty signed November 13, 1994, which I believe should be read alongside Presidential Decree 1069. This has some legal complexities involved, and perhaps you might want to educate this committee, which would have primacy just in case an extradition request is sent to the DFA. What would happen to the pending cases lodged before the Regional Trial Court of Pasig pursuant to PD 1069?
Thank you very much,
Secretary
Senator.
Manalo.
Yeah. If I could first give a very general answer, and then, of course, on any specifics that might arise in the event that we receive a formal extradition request. Just to say, if we do receive a formal request, we will, the DFA will, of course, study it and see if it is consistent with the agreed procedure pertaining to extradition. And here is where PD 1069 would also come in. So we would have to study that. And then, after, if we are satisfied with the request, we will, of course, refer it to the Department of Justice for relevant action. So, in other words, we will still have to study any extradition request if received. Perhaps later, it's quite a detailed approach, pero yun ang general approach if we do receive such a request. Thank you.
One quick follow-up, just to remind the officials of Department of Foreign Affairs as well as councils present here. Anything that would transpire and would come out of these proceedings under oath would be recorded. and pursuant to existing extradition rules, any request to have any transcripts coming out of these proceedings would have to be coursed through the DFA. Kayo po ang magpapadala nito mula sa committee ito papunta kung saan man. So you should be aware of that, and the lawyers here present should be aware of that, because this would trigger some concerns involving civil rights or individual rights. So just be aware of that, and I suggest, Madam Chair, that the DFA should stay here till the conclusion of the investigation proceedings, to be physically present. But that's what I'm saying. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Assured naman po tayo na bagamat met kailangang mauna ng umalis si Secretary Manalo, that Yusek Domingo will stay on with us. So the department will be well represented. Salamat po, Secretary Manalo, Undersecretary Domingo at Majority Leader. So ngayon po,